Welcome, everybody, to 2026, our first webinar of the new year. It's a back to basic webinar. We haven't done one of these in several years, and basically is a time to really understand what community association D&O is, why it's important, and the kind of claims we're seeing under this D&O policy.
Kevin, you've been in the D&O industry for quite a while, many years. Why does it exist? Like why was D&O created?
Okay, it was interesting. You talk about many years. My first D&O, or community association, a condo, was 1981. So
Wow.
I was
Okay.
very young back then. I worked at Chubb and I wrote my first D&O. And what the interesting thing is that I had to understand what a community association was and what kind of exposure they had. And you look at a community association, the board has to make decisions. They have to make decisions about their assessments. They have to make decisions about enforcing the rules. They have to make a decision about maintaining the association. Problem is that people get mad because they think the assessments are too high, you're not maintaining well enough, and the rules you want to enforce are unreasonable, unenforceable. So we're constantly seeing claims based on those things over and over and over again. And we're talking about board members there who are volunteers. They're not being paid. They're not even being trained properly. So a lot of times they have these board members who go to board meetings and instead of talking about how to enforce the rules or how to maintain the association or how to collect assessments, what they do is talk about their favorite movie, right? That's been the problem, Sherry.
hmm It becomes kind of a social setting for people, and they make friends, and they just kind of treat it very casually. They really don't treat it like a business, right, Kevin?
And that's the point. I mean, you just think if you have $100,000 unit and you have 100 units, you have a $10 million corporation that you're running. And again, the boards of directors have to understand they are responsible for a $10 million corporation. But again, they have difficulty understanding that. And that difficulty leads to D&O claims.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, they have a huge responsibility on their shoulders, and unfortunately, when the claims come in, that's when it hits them that it's a serious job, a very, very serious job.
Yeah.
hmm
They have a fiduciary responsibility. You hear
hmm
that word all the time, fiduciary responsibility, which means you have to act in the best interest of the association. That's what it
hmm
basically was. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and they're making, like you said, decisions all the time about all different situations. And they might get a written complaint that can turn into a claim, and they might not realize that an email complaining about a neighbor or about noise or something like that could actually turn into a complaint.
Yeah. And that's the key part of it. And we'll get into that in terms of, what is a claim, when a claim should be submitted or not. Because again, the boards get yelled at and get frustrated all the time because decisions they make, people don't like them. And when is their claim and when it's not? When you submit it, you got to wait for the lawsuit, or you just have a written demand. Which one is it? Or just a verbal complaint. So we'll talk about all those different things today. So let's get
hmm
started. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah. Now, what exactly is D&O insurance for people who might not be that familiar with it?
Okay. D&O insurance for a community association. This is unique, community association, because there's three parts you got to understand. It protects the insured, number one, against a claim, number two, for a wrongful act made against them during the policy period. Three things: insured, claim, and a wrongful act. That makes it really, really unique. Now, if this was a bodily injury and property damage, a GL policy, it'd be a claim. It protects the insured against a claim for bodily injury or property damage. Wrongful act is a lot broader, as we will soon talk about when we get into some of these definitions.
Yes, yes. A wrongful act covers so many different things. It's such a broad term, as you said. And now, who is an insured, Kevin, under a D&O policy?
Okay, and we're talking about a community association D&O policy. The difference is when you talk about a standard D&O policy, the standard D&O policy covers directors and officers. That is a duly elected and appointed officers of a corporation. But when you talk about community association D&O, you're talking about the association itself. So
hmm
Happy Acres Community Association, if they're named in a lawsuit, they get covered. The board members, the committees, the architectural review committee, the social committee, the cleanup committee, whatever committee there is, they do it. All volunteers and the most important one is the community association management company.
Yes, yes,
Is
because they make so many decisions on behalf of the association, including purchasing the insurance quite a lot
yes,
most of the
yes.
time. Hmm.
Yep, yep. And what they're doing is acting on their behalf. That's why they get coverage. It's not so much that they make the decisions, but what they do is give advice and provide professional advice to the board members. And when the board members listen to them, okay, and they get sued, the management company gets sued as a board member or as addition to, then that's where the D&O covers it also. So it's
Hmm.
really important to understand the difference between a D&O policy for community association and a standard D&O policy. Standard D&O policy, directors and officers, duly elected and appointed officers. D&O for community associations, it's a lot broader. And we left one out there, spouses of the association. So what that means, Sherry, is that if you are a board member at your condominium, and all of a sudden your husband says that those board members have no idea what they're doing, they're incompetent, and all of a sudden they sue you and your husband is insured in the policy.
Absolutely. So it's very broad coverage. It covers really everything that needs to be covered. And the property manager, as you mentioned, is really critical. It's really important that the property management company is covered. If they're not covered, that could be a big problem. And Gambit, we started out talking about a wrongful act. What exactly is a wrongful act? We know that's a broad term. So let's kind of dig into that a little bit and discuss what is that exactly?
Okay, when we talk about a wrongful act, oh no, let's do what is a claim first.
Oh,
Let's go back. Let's go back. What is a claim? Yes, that's
sorry.
it.
Yeah, we jumped over into wrongful. Yeah.
Yeah, you jumped over. I said, wait a minute, what's the claim? Because again, number one, you have to be insured in a policy. So it protects the insured, okay? You know, or a claim. And this is really important because when you talk about a D&O policy of community association, a claim is a written demand for monetary and non-monetary relief. Now, it's very, very unique because most liability policies provide coverage for a suit for damages. Okay. D&O for community association provides a claim is a written demand, not a suit for damages, but a written demand for damages and non-monetary damages.
Hmm.
Now, what's the
And
difference
Kim,
between the two? Yes.
uh,
You already
and
asked me
Kim,
that, weren't you?
I was just going to mention that, you and I have talked in quite a few other webinars about the fact that most of the claims that we see in associations are not about money.
And that's it. And that's what's important. For example, and you just mentioned earlier, if somebody gets a violation letter, because again, my favorite one is a trash can. I'm the kind of person, if I live in a condominium association, my trash can will not be removed in 48 hours. Even though the document says remove them in 48 hours, it ain't going to happen. I might not be home, whatever. I get a violation letter. What I'm going to do is put a written demand to the board saying, please stop harassing me. I believe your documents are unfair and therefore unenforceable. I'm not answering any money. I'm wanting to do one thing is say it's unfair, therefore it's unenforceable. Now, if I wanted to be a nasty guy, I could say, and discriminatory.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
now all those things, oh no, but by me saying discriminatory, now I add money into it. But before I said discriminatory, now all of a sudden I just want them to stop harassing me. Leave my trash cans alone. If I'm gonna leave them out there for 6 or 7 days, it's okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
That is a non-monetary damage claim, not covered under liability policies. Liability policy picks up a suit for damages. Ours
Hmm.
pick up a written demand. Written demand. I think that you're harassing me, board. You don't have the authority to tell me to take my trash cans out in 48 hours, even though they're in the governing documents.
Hmm.
So that's
Absolutely. That's a big issue in my neighborhood, the trash cans. A lot of people do get notices and they say they're going to fine them if they leave their cans out too long. So a lot of people complain about that.
you know what? It's a
That's
funny
a real
thing.
issue.
The world has changed. When I was growing up, guess what happened? My neighbors would pick my trash cans and put them in my backyard for us,
Yeah. Yeah.
or they would understand you're on vacation, not a big deal. But today, what happens is that you get violation letters, and you get violation letters, you're not happy, and you're not happy. You're going to complain to the board saying, where do you get the authority to tell me to remove those trash cans?
Hmm.
It's a written demand for non-monetary relief and a claim under the D&O policy. not a
Mm-hmm.
claim under the general liability policy, because not bodily injury or property damage. It is a demand because I don't like the decision the board made.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Much more formal now. Everything's much more formal. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's we could call it that if you want to, Sherry. So the next one is civil proceeding commenced by
Mm-hmm.
service suit, which is a lawsuit. Now the next one is fascinating. Criminal proceeding commenced by an indictment. And about 30 years ago, there was a claim, a criminal proceeding against a board of directors in New York City because they did not install the window guards properly. They had kids in their unit, kids in their association that were under 10. If you're under 10, you have specialized window guards in there. They didn't have them, so they were found criminally negligent.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now, guess what? They have coverage under our policy, and I'm quite sure, if they found guilty, our claims guys will serve 3 to 5 years in jail for them.
Yeah.
Now, I'm
Wow.
only kidding about that. Only kidding about the jail part. I don't know. I don't know what happened. So but I have no idea what happened when they found criminally negligent. I don't know what the claims person is going to do, but it is a it can be a problem in community associations. It has happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And the final one is formal administrative regulatory proceedings. That is your Fair Housing Act, which you see a ton of. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
so now we know what a claim is. You
Yes.
got it?
Yep, I got it. Yeah. And
Okay.
like we mentioned earlier, a lot of them are, what people want to fly a flag. It could be about garbage cans or it could be about a pet. I mean, not necessarily money, but a lot of like you have so many people living in the neighborhood and so many issues that pop up and all the rules that people may or may not follow in that neighborhood, the CCNRs.
And again, the bottom line is this. If you have a DNO claim, the majority of the time is going to be because I'm challenging the board's authority for decisions that they made. So I said from
Mm-hmm.
the beginning, their job is to make decisions. They make decisions about maintenance. They make a decision about enforcement. They make decisions about money. And guess what? We never like decisions they make. Sherry, you live in a community association. If they tell you they're going to raise the assessments or charge a special assessment, are you going to be happy?
No, not gonna be happy. Nope. And people
Okay.
complain about it on our Facebook page all the time about the assessments and the cost that the money that we're paying to maintain the fountain in the front and yeah.
Yep.
People like to complain. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
And the difference is, though, and this is important, it doesn't become a claim until it is a written demand. They put it in writing. The
Mm-hmm.
difference between them coming to the board and saying, stop harassing me about my trash cans or stop harassing me about the fountain. When they put it in writing, it's a DNO claim.
Mm-hmm. That's what board members need to know. That's why they
Okay.
need advice. Yeah. And not just take it lightly if they get an email or a complaint letter, make sure they do something about it. Hmm.
Okay. Now we're talking about your favorite thing, the wrongful act, right? What is
Yes,
a
wrongful
wrongful
act.
act?
Yep.
There we go. Now, this is interesting. Now, you read all that kind of stuff there. And the only thing that's important in all that six things is number three is any failure to act.
Hmm.
Any failure to act. So that
Hmm.
means if you have a misstatement or a misleading statement, decision, any failure to act is what we're talking about. A
Hmm.
failure to act. And that is what a wrongful act is. So, quick review. Insured is volunteers of the association. A claim is a written demand for monetary, non-monetary, and a wrongful act is any act. So right now we're talking about a very, very broad contract for a community association. I mean, again, a community association, if they have a claim, is because again, it's going to be a misstatement, misleading statement, a act or decision, failure to act, alleged breach of fiduciary duty, all those things, they are wrapped into two little words, any act. Any act itself is a wrongful act.
Hmm.
Again, which is different than your GL, which is two things, bodily injury, property damage, and personal injury. But this is a wrongful act, very, very broad.
Hmm. Absolutely. And like breach of fiduciary duty, that's something that we see a lot of claims in as well. And we're going to be talking about, the claims that we see. And that's basically somebody, the board member, they have to have the best interest of the association when they're doing any kind of business dealings regarding the association, right, Kevin?
Without
That's,
conflict of interest. That's the key word.
yeah.
Without conflict of interest.
They can't
Because
hire
at
their
the end of
cousin
the day,
to paint the building and that
yep,
kind of a thing, yeah.
and what they can't do is say paint the building. And by the way, since I'm the president, my inside of my bathroom needs to be painted also. Go
Right.
ahead and paint it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Conflict of interest there. Yes. Yes.
Right, right. And a lot of board members don't realize that, that's something, yeah, they can't really just play favorites and ask for favors along the way.
But they do that, and they do that.
Yeah,
A lot of times
they
that
do.
board, not a lot of times, board members will say, "We'll give you that bid, but guess what?
Right,
My bathroom needs to be painted." Um,
right.
it
My
is
fence needs to be painted.
yes. Yep.
hmm hmm
So so
Absolutely.
now this is the important part is because it's a very, very broad contract. So the key thing now is what's excluded under a D&O policy. Now,
hmm
fascinating is that what we've done is divided into four categories. Okay, four
hmm
categories. It is number one, to eliminate things that are uninsurable. Okay, like nuclear, and war, that kind of stuff. You can't insure for stuff like that. Okay,
hmm
terrorism, those things are
Yeah,
excluded under the policy. Okay,
right. hmm
they eliminate coverage of duplications. When I'm talking about duplications, what I'm talking about is things like bodily injury and property damage. It's covered under the GL policy.
hmm
Okay. The next one is the important one. And layers coverage due to conduct. Okay. This is that willful acts, doing things on purpose that is willful and really against public policy. Okay. Now, this is
hmm
interesting because a willful act is for me to decide as the president of my association, because I'm a senior citizen, I don't want to fund the reserves right now. Or because I'm
hmm
wealthy, I don't want to fund the reserves anymore. That's a
hmm
conscious decision on my part not to fund the reserves. Now, later on, I can be sued for it, for failure to
hmm
properly fund the reserves. That's a wrongful act in the policy. It is a conscious decision I made, but it's not willful and wanton. It's not against public policy.
hmm
Okay,
hmm
that's the
hmm
difference.
hmm hmm
And the fourth reason is keep premiums low. So when you look at a D&O policy, if something's in there that shouldn't be in there, that is there to keep the premiums low. Now, what
hmm
we've done is put together a D&O policy to provide coverage for the claims that we will see coming up very, very soon. A lot of our policies that we check, we see all the time, we compare, do not provide the coverage we're talking about. And we'll get into a little more detail as we talk about the claims coming up next. Um,
hmm
but when you look at when you look at the exclusions under D&O policy, they have to make sense for you insurance professionals. Now, either have to be uninsurable, you got to be covered somewhere, or it's against public policy to do it. If something's in there that doesn't meet those three, that means it's there for one reason, because keep premiums reasonable. Now,
hmm
the good news is that either next month or the month after, we will talk about exclusions under the D&O policy in more detail. But today,
hmm
to give you an overview, to get you like, wait a minute, I want to know more. Tune in to the future.
Absolutely. That's on February 26th, which I was going to mention later on. February 26th is Making Sense of D&O Coverage, Endorsements and Exclusions. hmm
So
Great.
now let's go to
The claims.
the claims. The
hmm
claims. Okay.
Yes.
This is my favorite chart because when you look at this chart, most of the claims that we see, okay, are not covered under most D&O policies. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a D&O policy in a package, you're going to have a problem with a lot of these things. Now, let's take this number one. Breach of fiduciary duty is number one claim you're going to see in any D&O policy. In fact, what you'll see is breach of fiduciary duty that led to discrimination, breach of fiduciary duty that led to violation of CCNR. So all of them are added into breach of fiduciary duty. So we kind of made in different categories, but this is breach of fiduciary duty by itself. Now, breach of fiduciary duty means you did not act in the best interest of the association. I don't agree with your decisions you've made, usually in terms of money or enforcement or in maintenance. Those are the three big issues that we're going to see over and over and over again. So that's the number one claim. 25% of all our claims are for that. Now, if I have a claim against you for any of those three things, I'm challenging your authority to act. Remember, I said that in that last thing, the authority act. That's what I'm going to do. Challenge your authority act. If I challenge your authority act, I don't want money. All I want is for the judge to say, guess what, Sherry, as a president of the association, you are incompetent and you should be kicked off the board. So that's what they want. That's all they want.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Not money, not money.
not
No,
money.
they want action. They
Now,
want some kind of action. They want something done. Hmm.
now the next one is about money. Next one, we talk about discrimination.
Hmm.
Discrimination is a big one. When I talk about discrimination, it is harassment, bullying, all those things are part of discrimination.
Hmm.
And everybody kind of falls in that category now. It really doesn't, you can find some way of getting in that category, especially if you look at the average number of people, the average age of people who live in community association. I think it's like over 60 anyway. So we
Hmm.
all fit in that discrimination class. And
Hmm.
again, if I disagree with the board of directors,
Hmm.
and me saying that, I'm an African American, you say because you're a female, or because whatever you are in there, and all of a sudden you muddy the waters. And how do you prove you didn't discriminate? How do you prove you didn't do those things? It becomes a problem, and that becomes expensive.
Hmm.
Very
You can see it over flag issues, Kevin. People wanting to put a flag in front of their house, and they tell them they have to take the flag down, that kind of a thing. I mean, really
yeah,
anything can be discrimination. Hmm.
exactly. Because I may want a red flag, and I want to put a blue flag, and I don't like the red flag across the street from me, and
Yeah.
so I pull the flag up. You know.
Hmm. Or a
Um,
college team. Even one of my neighbors had their college flag in front of their house and they were told to take it down and they were pretty upset about it, you know.
Yep, yep. And what
Hmm.
happens is this: you're bullying me, you're harassing me. Stop it.
Hmm.
Right
Hmm.
now, it is the number one area of claims that we're seeing
Hmm.
because of, again, we did a webinar about several months ago about lack of civility in community association. Lack of
Hmm.
civility in associations has led to this discrimination area. And again, I'm including bullying, harassment in discrimination because they all kind of the same reason. Because I'm not being
Hmm.
heard, I'm not being listened to, I don't really matter.
Right. Right. Yeah. It really comes in all shapes and sizes and forms. Hmm.
Next one is violation of the CC&Rs. Now, every state doesn't have CC&Rs. Um, I just use the term governing documents. So the
Yeah.
governing
Yeah.
documents outlines what you can do, what you can't do, and especially when it comes to raising assessments or special assessments or what rules to follow. The challenge comes from is that, wait a minute, you're not enforcing the rules uniformly. You're
Hmm.
arbitrarily selecting different people with different rules. So meaning that if Sherry Branson, if you're a person that everybody loves in the association, you park your car in visitor parking, or you don't carry your dog up in the in the lobby area, they're gonna leave you alone. But me, nobody's gonna like an association. I'm gonna get tagged every time I walk my dog through the lobby or I park in visitor parking, and that's where the problem comes with violation. I violated, but I'm coming back and challenge you because you don't have the authority to act.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay?
And then people get disgruntled, if they get told they can't do this or they can't do that or they violated it. We have a neighbor who apparently got upset that they were told they couldn't do something and they ended up moving somewhere. Now they come back to the neighborhood and they look for people who are violating the CC&Rs, the go,
Yes.
and they send
Yes.
notes to the property manager. And it's like a big deal now.
Well, you know what? And that's the interesting thing because the next one, it relates to that defamation.
Yeah,
Because what
yeah.
happens is that's where defamation claims come from. I've been mistreated. How dare you do this for me? You crossed the line. You said I was incompetent, which is defamation.
Hmm.
You said I'm sleeping with the upstairs person. You say I
Hmm.
have some kind of illness or disease. You say I'm dishonest.
Yeah.
It's the defamation. That's the bar that's set when you talk about defamation. And when
Hmm.
you do that, now all of a sudden, again, in the community association world, listen, we live here. It's not where we go to work. It's not where I'm gonna spend 8 hours. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm sitting by the pool or I'm working in my house, and all of a sudden I hear people playing pickleball, you know,
Yeah,
I hear the
pickleball.
noises that,
That's a big
yeah,
issue right now at a lot of
it's a
associations.
big
Yeah, the
issue.
noise,
Yeah,
the noise.
the
Hmm.
noise,
Hmm.
So I'm upset by it. So what I'm going to do about it is, it's in violation of the governing documents.
Hmm.
I'm supposed to have a peaceful, quiet enjoyment on my property. That pickleball court's making so much noise, it's in violation. And I'm being defamed because I'm trying to get work done, and they're saying things about me personally, that I never had a job before, and I don't know how to work. I should be at the office now instead of being at my, being on my computer. So defamation is another big one there.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many different issues that can pop up. And then breach of contract, Kevin, that's something one that we've seen quite a bit of in the past. Quite a few breach
Now,
of contracts.
this is interesting because breach of contract, we have a standard director and officer liability policy. There's no breach of contract exclusion because the directors and officers don't enter into contracts. The association enter contracts. So our breach of contract claims comes from the association entering a contract and they are insured. So if we have a claim, guess what? We defend the claim, but we will not pay damages.
Ah, that's good to know. That's very, very good
Yeah.
to know. And breach of contract could be something simple like the landscaping company, they decide to change companies mid-contract because people are complaining about the landscaping. And and the board members don't realize you just can't fire the landscaping company and hire a new one. You have to do it the right way.
And refused to pay them because you didn't like they didn't trim the trees in a proper way. There's a stop sign there and they didn't trim it beyond the stop sign. So now I cancel the contract. And another problem is some of these contracts are continuous. So
Hmm.
they don't expire after 1 year. After that 1 year is up, they continue it and continue and continue it. Then one day you say, no, no, we're getting rid of it. But no, no, the contract says it's there.
Absolutely. Yep. And I did want to take just a second to mention we do have a few questions that have come in. So if you have additional questions, please type them into the Q&A box. And if we have time at the end, we'll go over them. And I record all of the webinars, and I'll be emailing out a recording of today's webinar, the full webinar, and the slides for your use. We put the recordings on our YouTube channel where you can listen to today's webinar and all of our past webinars going back 14 years. 14 years
Lucky
for the
us,
webinars, Kevin. They
lucky us, right?
list
Oh boy.
webinars for the rest of the year.
I think I had hair back then, actually.
Oh,
All right, we got one more to talk about, and then we're going
okay.
to all right, insured versus insured. Very important because in your GL policy, you can't sue yourself. On
Hmm.
the DNO, it happens all the time. It happens because we're the new board and we don't like what the old board did because they failed to fund the reserve, failed to pass
Hmm.
special assessment, failed to maintain the association. So now we're the new board, we're going to sue the old board, or the old board is going to sue the new board. And or
Hmm.
I'm the president, I'm going to sue the treasurer. So that happens. It happens.
Yeah,
And we don't have an insured versus insured. A lot of policies have an insured versus insured to make sure um, you don't have one. So.
very important coverage. Very important coverage. Yeah.
So those are the big ones, and most of these claims are for non-monetary damages. I just want the judge to tell me that guess what, Kevin, you're right. They don't know what they're doing. And then I walk on and feel a lot happier about it.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So those are the big claims that we see, everybody, and the categories. And again, I'm going to be sending out a copy of today's presentation and also the recording as well. And we've had a few questions that have come in, which we'll get to the end. But if you think of others, please type them into the question box.
Okay, we got one more slide, right? We got how to reduce. That's the key thing. You got to be able, it's important to understand how to reduce D&O claims. The reason why, because everybody doesn't have our D&O policy, or one of our really close competitors who offers the same kind of coverage. So you got to make sure that when you're sued and you don't have non-monetary damage claims, you have certain things you can do to reduce claims. Number one, be consistent. If you have rules, be consistent about the rules. Don't play favoritism that we know we do. Document, document, document. So that it's not a matter of if you made a good or bad decision so much, but you document your decision and say, these are the reasons why we made these decisions. You want to put yourself in a defendable position. The best defendable position is to get experts to tell you that, yes, your lawyer says, yes, we are allowed to fine them for the trash cans. Don't go to ChatGPT and say it's okay to fine them because of the trash can. One of the biggest
Yeah.
problems, biggest concerns, scary moments for me is that too many people, board members, are going to ChatGPT to find out answers to their questions as opposed to calling me up as an insurance professional or a
Right,
lawyer
right. A lawyer
or
or a lawyer. Hmm. Yeah.
anybody. And so ChatGPT is not a vendable position. If you get sued and you say, well, ChatGPT told me, it is not a defendable position. So ask experts. what to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it could be a very expensive mistake, and ChatGPT is not going to, like you said, it's not legal advice, it's not professional advice.
No, it's just somebody else's opinion.
It's
All right,
convenient and easy,
it's
that's
convenient and it's
yeah.
free.
Yeah, it's
That is
free.
free. That is
Exactly,
free. That is
exactly.
free. It's free.
hmm
So follow the governing documents. Very critical. Follow the governing documents. Seek legal advice early. Again, ask experts. Don't wait until the lawsuit comes in or that written demand and say, you know what? I should have contacted my lawyer. Contact him right away. And avoid emotional decisions. This is important because if you live in a community association, the people who live in community associations are agitated these days. There's a low level of depression in community associations. And whenever that board makes a decision that we don't like, it could get about money, or maintenance, or just the governing documents, we don't like it. The first thing we do is yell and scream at the board members. The board members have to lower the temperature, talk to them in a polite, kind way. And then guess what? You end up a little bit better off than you do yelling back and forth at each other.
Right, right. Exactly. Yeah. There's no point in having a big fight with them or, it's better just to discuss it and try to work it out that way. hmm
Okay, good.
Well, Kevin, your voice is
I,
holding up really well. I'm really
I need
proud
a
of you.
break.
Your
I need a
voice sounds
break.
great. Yeah, a sip of water. And then let's see. We have some 7 questions that have come in. Do we have
Okay,
time
well,
to?
let's finish up so we can do it. The
Yeah.
next slide we're going to talk
Yeah.
about what do we
Oh,
offer at Kevin Dave Insurance Services.
yes.
It's not just the D&O. We also have crime insurance. We'll talk about cyber risk insurance, which is a big area. When we talk about the trends in the future, crime insurance and cyber insurance is going to be a big one. And excess liability. Excess liability is so important because guess what's happening? We're seeing more and more claims exceeding the $1 million limit. We see more million-dollar claims happen in 2025 than we've seen in the past. So if you're looking for any of these coverages, give us a call. Let us know. We'd be glad to help you out. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. I look forward to next month in our monthly webinar. Again, click subscribe.